What's Andrew Mountbatten Windsor? What's the latest on Andrew? I saw that that place he'd been living in has basically been trashed. It might cost $1 million to fix it up.
Yes, well, it seems that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has not been keeping his royal estate up to the level that it should be, and it's become very dilapidated, Steve. Now, he was looking at perhaps getting £500,000 because he is going to leave the premises prematurely, as we know. He said that he's going to leave, but it's on the condition that the estate is kept in good condition, and it's emerged that it is in very poor condition. So he has just got mounting woes out, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, from this property, and he's got 12 months to do so. But it's expected, Steve, he will move out in the new year and move to Sandringham after Christmas, because they will not want the royal family that awkward exchange if Andrew's up in Sandringham when they have their traditional annual Christmas celebrations there.
Prince Andrew probably thought the worst news of the week was being publicly stripped of his ancient knighthoods in the London Gazette. He was wrong. The real blow didn't land on his reputation. That ship sailed long ago. The true sting in the tail landed squarely on his bank account. For months, the disgraced Duke has been clinging to Royal Lodge like a shipwreck survivor to a raft, reportedly banking on a golden handshake to ease his exit. The calculation was simple: surrender the lease early and walk away with roughly £500,000 in compensation for the millions he poured into the property decades ago. But that check is never coming, in a twist that reads like a morality play on greed and neglect. The very mansion Andrew fought so desperately to keep has officially turned against him. A brutal internal inspection by the Crown Estate has revealed the 30-bedroom home is in such a poor state of repair that he has effectively voided his own exit package. The £500,000 is gone, swallowed up by peeling paint, rotting timber, and years of deferred maintenance. The Crown Estate has warned Parliament that he will likely walk away with absolutely nothing. It turns out, you can't claim compensation for a palace you allowed to crumble around you. This financial humiliation is the headline, but it is just the tip of the iceberg in a week that has seen Andrew's royal existence dismantled piece by piece. While his accountants were digesting the news about the lost money, the king was busy erasing his brother's legacy from the history books. At midday, the London Gazette, the United Kingdom's uncompromising journal of public record, published the final administrative death knell for Andrew's royal life. The entry was cold and clinical. Andrew Albert Christian Edward Mountbatten Windsor has been formally stripped of his status as a Knight of the Garter and his Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order. These aren't just medals. The Order of the Garter is the oldest order of chivalry in Britain, a sacred inner circle he occupied alongside kings and prime ministers. To be stripped of it is a medieval shaming ritual updated for the modern age. The Gazette didn't just say he was out, it declared his name shall be erased from the register, a term that sounds less like a resignation and more like a damning of memory. King Charles III has effectively done everything within his power to strip his brother of the trappings of royalty. The only thing Andrew has left is the title of Duke, and even that feels less like an honor now and more like a luggage tag for his baggage. But let's go back to the house, because that is where the real drama and the irony lies. For 20 years, Andrew lived in Royal Lodge under a sweetheart deal that most Londoners would kill for. He paid £8.5 million upfront in 2003 to cover renovation costs, which allowed him to live there virtually rent-free. The lease stipulated a rent of one peppercorn a year, and even that was only payable if requested. It was a setup designed for a prince in good standing. But the lease had a catch, a clause that has now snapped shut like a bear trap. To get any compensation upon leaving, he had to return the property in good and well-maintained condition. He didn't, and on November 12th, officials from the Crown Estate marched into Royal Lodge for their first formal inspection ahead of his eviction. What they found wasn't a pristine royal asset ready for the next tenant. It was a liability. The report cited significant dilapidations. We are talking about a property suffering from damp, structural wear, and neglect that borders on shocking for a residence of such pedigree. This is a house that was once the beloved sanctuary of the Queen Mother, a jewel in the Windsor crown. Under Andrew's watch, it has reportedly become a money pit. The question everyone is asking is, how? How does a man who once had staff, a generous allowance, and the backing of the late Queen let a mansion fall into ruin? The answer is the brutal reality of his post-royal life. He is broke, at least by royal standards. Estimates suggest that the minimum monthly upkeep for Royal Lodge, just to keep the lights on, the staff paid, and the heating running, sits well above £30,000. In the winter months, that figure climbs even higher. When the money from the public purse stopped, the maintenance stopped. He prioritized cosmetic appearances over structural integrity, and now the bill has come due. The Crown Estate's assessment that the condition is not out of keeping with the tenancy of this duration is essentially a polite, bureaucratic way of saying, this is exactly what happens when you let a broke prince live in a palace for 2 decades. This creates a fascinating new dynamic for his eviction. Previously, Andrew had leverage. He could argue that he was being pushed out of a home he had invested in. Now, he is essentially a tenant who has trashed the place and lost his deposit. The Crown Estate has the upper hand. They aren't just asking him to leave. They are telling him that every day he stays is another day the asset depreciates. The timeline for his departure is now the final battleground. The palace wants him out by late February 2026. They want to get in, assess the damage fully, and start the massive restoration work needed. Work that could include new roofs, new windows, and updated electrical systems. Andrew, however, is reportedly digging his heels in. The terms of his lease technically allow for a notice period that could drag this out until October 2026. He could, in theory, stay for another full year, wandering the drafty halls of his decaying mansion while the king fumes at Buckingham Palace. But with the compensation money gone, his motivation to leave early has evaporated, yet his ability to afford to stay has also vanished. It is a stalemate of attrition. Meanwhile, his future accommodation awaits. He is expected to be moved to a private property on the Sandringham estate. Wood Farm has been mentioned, a cozy, secluded cottage that is a far cry from the grandeur of the lodge. His ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, who has lost her own title battles and stands by him, is reportedly making her own arrangements. The days of them playing house in a 30-bedroom mansion are over. This story is a masterclass in the collapse of privilege. Andrew likely believed that his status would protect him, that the lease would protect him, that his mother's memory would protect him. But King Charles runs a tighter ship. There is no sentimentality for crumbling assets or crumbling reputations. The stripping of the titles was the symbolic end. The loss of the £500,000 is the practical end. Andrew is being erased from the official narrative and evicted from the physical landscape. S.O., the grand old Duke of York, didn't march his men up the hill. He sat in a rotting house until the roof leaked and the king took his keys away. He is losing his home, he is losing his honor, and now he is losing the fortune he thought was his safety net. What do you think will happen next? Will Andrew accept defeat and move to the smaller cottage in February, or will he spite the king and squat in Royal Lodge until the very last day of his lease next October? And was the king right to strip him of every last honor? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to keep following this royal real estate drama and see who eventually moves into the lodge and how much it costs to fix Andrew's mess, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We track every update from the Crown Estate to the London Gazette, so join us and don't miss a single twist in this saga.